Hey there, and welcome. So, Side Effects is holding a new Houdini art challenge called Mardini, which is starting on the 1st of March. The idea of it is to create an artwork in Houdini based on a daily prompt. That prompt is basically just a theme to base your artwork around. It's open to anyone who would like to enter, and if you do enter, it doesn't have to be every day. Last year, there were prizes for Best Daily, Best Weekly, Best Collection, Best Overall Artwork, and for entering every day. So, as you may know, I won Best Collection in last year's Who Lie Art Challenge, and I've decided to do a daily review video for each day's entries. I'm going to be talking about the winning entries, what makes them so good, and then I'm also going to be talking about some of the other entries. I'll go over what I like about them, what I think could maybe be changed, and how they could have been winning entries in my opinion. So if you'd like me to review your entry, feel free to tag me on Instagram at 9_between. So with all of that comes a bit of a disclaimer. Everything that I'm saying here is my own opinion. It doesn't make it right or wrong. I'm just trying to give a critique that the artist can work from and hopefully something that you can learn from as well. I'm not trying to make fun of or insult or belittle any of the artists. I'm merely just trying to give some feedback in an entertaining way. So let's get straight into it. So in third place for day 6 in the images category, we have this entry by Oscar. It gets me every time, man. I love this entry. They've made use of turbulent flow. So, the sort of thing where they test aerodynamics of an object and then it breaks apart. And so there's a lot of detail. And this type of thing can be tricky to get right because if you don't have enough particles, it can feel kind of sparse and empty. But they've got enough so that you can get the idea of turbulence in the background. They have a bit of lens flare, which is a nice touch to this. There's also some glow and streaks. I believe this might have been added with like red shift post effects because it starts to sort of have that same feel to it, like lighting, composition, materials, concept, everything's great. So yeah, wonderful entry by Oscar. Then we have this entry in second place by Ben CZE, and what they have here seems to be sort of Christmas lights leading off into the distance. And so the idea of flow is given with the curve and the movement away into the distance. The actual render has a very warming, comforting feel to it, so that helps sell it quite a lot. There's also very good variation. So a lot of the time, entries may lack some variation. And when it's lacking variation, it just feels too clinical. And so by having variation in the light sources, where some are kind of reddish, some are more orange, you get across the idea of realism or even just more work put in than was actually put in. This is like small changes that give it a great feel. I think it's awesome. Even there's a bit of shadow depth of field, all of the good stuff. So yeah, Ben CZ, love it. This one is the first place entry in the images category from Just Kunuman. I hope I said that right. This entry is brilliant. I don't really have anything bad to say about it. They have the concept of a river flowing, so conceptually it's aligned. But then the execution of this is really where it shines. They've done a very different take on the topic. They have this cross section of landscape where you have all of this detail up on the top, all of these plants and flowers and rocks. There's variation in the color of the terrain. And then they have this very natural lighting. So the actual lighting is very reminiscent of sort of early afternoon lighting. And as for the actual composition of this, I think that this is brilliant, having the scale shown like this, where you have this tiny little rafter at the bottom. And everything about this is wonderful. So, there's a lot to look at, but none of it distracts from the concept. Everything here looks splendid. There's nice little bump on the water so that it catches light and looks like actual water. But yeah, everything about this is great. I don't really have anything bad to say about it. Now, maybe, and this is a big maybe, I definitely don't think that this is entirely true, but perhaps this would look better if you didn't have the stretched sort of texturing over here on the back. But really, that's such a minor detail. I think it's a wonderful entry. So awesome work from Just. In third place for the animation category, we have this entry by Clamo. And this is incredible. A couple of things to note initially upon looking at this is firstly the detail that isn't in the actual simulation. They have a lot of this detail on the floor over here. You can see this variation in roughness, a very slight bump perhaps, but I think that this is just roughness. So there's variation in roughness with a bit of a noise texture. They have no hard edges at the back, so the light and shadow sort of tapers in over here. It's not too distracting. They have this sort of vignette, so vignette being this blackening towards the edges, which brings your focus towards the center. They also have this lighting on the background where your attention should be, and they also have this room light on the actual simulation. Once again, the background is textured very similarly to the floor, where there is variation in it, so it adds to the realism. As for the actual simulation, I believe that it's just a pop network running along some sort of pop curve force. I might be wrong about that. It might be a bit more intricate than that. But this color change along with the shape change is wonderful. So I'm interested to see the first and second place entries because I believe that this entry has the potential to be a first place entry. It's great. So yeah, I don't have anything bad to say about this one. In second place, we have this entry by Resilient Picture Company. So what they've got is a lot of close-up movement, right? Everything sort of hinting towards the idea of flow. As you can see, I assume, yeah, this is shallow depth of field. So if you take a look over there, this is out of focus. So is that up there. What that allows is for your eye to be more drawn towards the center where all of the action is happening, all of the swirling motion. As this goes, they increase the intensity of their effect by adding more particles to it. So as you can see, this sort of fleshes itself out as it goes. The upside of doing that is you can start with a very simple scene and build interest as it goes along. You're not sure if it's going to form an image. You're not sure what kind of motion it's going to form. All of that stuff is kind of left up to the imagination. And as it goes, you can see that it fleshes out. Also, the color scheme is brilliant. This blue and orange is a wonderful color choice. I believe they're complementary colors. If you aren't familiar with complementary colors, I might be wrong here, but I think it's like red and green, yellow and purple, blue and orange. I think it's just things that are opposite each other on the color wheel. So by using those two colors, they do actually go together. They are complementary colors and they have a vibrance to them when they're used together. So great entry. The only thing I would have liked to have seen is maybe a higher quality render, but obviously I don't think that's possible with a daily entry like this. So yeah, I think it's wonderful. The only thing might be the render quality. So yeah, Resilient Picture Company. Beautiful stuff. And in first place, we have this entry by Cohort. What they have here is this sort of neuron dendrite network where we have all of these bits of light moving along. So the thing that makes this so good is largely the movement and the lighting. So as you can see, it starts out very dark. They don't have too much lighting before these sort of signals or whatever it is passes along, and then they move along. So what I find cool about this is that towards this part over here, the entire scene is very well lit. And it's all because of these little areas of signal or whatever it may be. The color choice was good. It's a sort of muted orange and white. It gives a very warm feel to this. So if I could give any sort of advice or make any sort of change to this, I think I might just do like shallow depth of field, just because I really like how lights look when they're out of focus, right? You end up with that fairy light look. So I think that there's a lot of potential for this shot to have a bit of shallow depth of field. Other than that, I think it's cool. Nice entry by Cohort. Time for Mardini review. So firstly, I would like to give, I guess, an honorable mention to Carl Kraus, because this entry is great. So there's a few things that I love about this. Firstly, the sort of blue in the shadows, shallow depth of field, the amount of detail, and sort of moving towards this more well-lit area, the variation in lighting, everything about this is incredible. So yeah, I just wanted to mention this entry sort of as an honorable mention. You know what, maybe I'll start doing that. I think I'll give an honorable mention each video to one that didn't win that I think is a winner in my mind. And so yeah, for today, I think that Carl Kraus deserves that honorable mention. I think that this is a wonderful entry. So yeah, this entry from Carl Drifter, very nice. I like that there's this shallow depth of field. The movement is nice, conceptually it's great. I don't know how you actually did it. This could have been a particle network converted to flip, but I'm not sure. So I don't think this is an actual flip network. This might be tricky with real flip. So I do think that this is particle based, but I might be wrong. Yeah, I think it's interesting. I'm not too sure how you could really improve this. I think maybe make it seem like there's more of a cohesion between the tennis ball and the water. It looks like they're kind of two separate elements. And then maybe just hit the ball with a bit of light as well. I think that's the only real thing. You could have actually gone for a bit of a darker background, but that's like a minor issue in my opinion. I don't think it's even a problem. It does add some nice detail to the background, so yeah. I think that this entry from Destroyer is brilliant, just because of the rendering. So I think that these sort of areas where it's picking up these light spectrums, so these sort of rainbow colors, and then the shallow depth of field with the very muted background, there's a good gradient on the background, all of that really contributes to this, and I think that this is a brilliant entry from Destroyer. So looking at this entry from Tokyo Okinawa, I think that if they used this simulation in a similar way to the way that Destroyer did theirs, where you're more close up and you're sort of putting it against the background that lets this shine, then it would be a winning entry. Because the actual simulation that they have going here is great. Even the rendering on the actual simulation looks good. I think that the white background betrays it, and the camera being so far away from the focus also betrays it. I think definitely come closer in, sort of full the frame with this, and you'd probably have a winning entry. So great stuff by Tokyo Okinawa. Let's move on. So this one from Milan B, I believe he tagged me on Instagram. So he's got a bit of a Kamehameha going here. So a couple of things that firstly I think is pretty cool about this is that the lighting sort of hits the actual character. The only thing is that the actual simulation, I think it could do with a lot more particles. But yeah, like I think way more particles would be cool. These do look good as they are. I think that you can maybe do a bit of a taper off with the age attribute. So you do like at age divided by at life, and then you drive a channel ramp with it. So that as they fade away, they sort of scale off. So you can use that to scale your P scale, or you can do it for the emission color. It's something that I did for the Doctor Strange portal effect. That was a while ago though. I was still fairly new to Houdini when I did that tutorial, but if you want to check out like the idea of particles sort of tapering off, I think that's a good place to check. The other thing is I just wish it was longer. But this could be cool, man. This could be really cool if it was a bit longer and you had more particles going here. I think it would be sick. This entry from Daniel Hodds, don't know how to say it, sorry, is awesome. So he broke down a boba tea, and he's got these little spheres floating around in the fluid. I think one thing that you could maybe do to improve this, actually, no, you do have interaction with the fluid. Either the collider or the fluid simulation isn't high res, so you sort of have this issue where they're not interacting properly. But I think if this was a bit of a higher resolution simulation, it would be awesome. Like, everything about this is great. The rendering, the color, the concept. The only thing I might change is that the spheres, maybe give them some subsurf so that the light sort of goes through them. I don't know if you have, but I can't really see it. I think to make them more realistic, you just have a bit of subsurf on all of them. But yeah, other than that, I think that this is a great entry. So yeah, high resolution and a bit of subsurf on these spheres, and you would have an awesome, awesome entry. This entry from Beazle, I think, is, in my opinion, once again, a winning entry. Everything about this is great. I don't even know if this is actual fluid simulation. To me, it just looks like a pop network that's been converted to flip simulation. Well, not even to flip simulation, but with like a flip, whatever it's called, the fluid surface thing. But yeah, the lighting on this, the background, the actual effect, everything about it's great. I think just like the render quality, I'm not sure if it's compression. I think it might be compression that's causing this because there's too much detail in like a small area. So yeah, shout out to Beazle for this one. This entry from Nice Take, very similar to one of the winning entries. He's also got this sort of turbulence thing going on. And really, this one's also great. I think the only thing is maybe the choice of object that they have. The only difference between this and the one that won for the still is that the one that won for the still had a different style to it. But in terms of dynamics and things, this is super similar. This one they also did a bit of a fluid simulation, but once again, I don't think it's actual fluid. I think it's pop converted. It might be fluid, who knows? If this is fluid sim, I think you can rather do this as pop and save yourself some time. This one is a good entry. They have everything going for it. They have the shallow depth of field, good motion, good lighting, nice color scheme. Can't fault this one really. I think the only thing is that the simulation quality is a little bit low. They did say that they bit off more than they could chew. The other thing is, I think that your collider is maybe not high resolution enough. You can see over here that there's some points where it sort of intersects the collider. But other than that, very nice. This entry from Un Petit Sapin.
You speak very good French.
Gracias.
That's the weirdest way I've ever said a French phrase. Yeah, a small tree. This entry over here, I believe I was tagged on Instagram for it. And I think that this looks great. Like, this is fairly good quality smoke simulation. So I think that maybe this could be better if you focus on either just the particles or the smoke. Maybe not doing both. And then you just increase the resolution of the one that you choose. So like lots of these little particles that are sort of flowing up. But I do really like the setup that you have here. The background looks good. The actual cube that you have looks good. The only thing I might suggest is maybe a bit of beveling to the edges of the cube or to the base, so that the base has a bit of detail to it. But the actual simulation over here that you have going looks decent. It's interacting with the environment nicely. I like that it's contained. There's a lot of good things going for this. I think the main issue is that this detail that you have on the inside isn't really shining, right? You haven't given it the opportunity to shine. And I think that that would be achieved by either increasing the resolution of either one of the smoke or these spheres, or just focusing on one or the other. So just smoke or just spheres. And if you're going to do just smoke, then maybe like a multicolored smoke or something. That's just sort of how I see it. But I do like the concept that you have of this contained in this glass thing. I'm surprised that you rendered this, actually, because you have volumetrics and transmission and a fairly long shot. It's like 5 seconds, and you managed to render it in time. So don't know how you managed that, but well done. I do think that this is a cool entry. I think some minor tweaks to it could look great. It's tough for me to say exactly what you could improve on. I would have to kind of sit and tweak this myself, but yeah, I think it's cool. I think you could just maybe play around with it so that there's a bit more of an impact and a bit more of a focus on this inside simulation. Sorry I can't be more help, but yeah. This entry by Tom Miner is awesome. He has a great looking simulation going here with this lava simulation, and the idea is cool. Just a couple of things that I would maybe recommend. Have this sort of darken a bit faster. It's very nice getting the sort of black mixed in with the other colors when you're doing lava simulation. Also, it's also nice to have some variation once it's even set. That you can do by just increasing the number of colors in the ramp that you're using to control the viscosity. So, you know, if you have viscosity of 0 over here and 1000 over here and a bunch of colors in between, instead of doing, you know, maybe just 3 colors, you add extra ones in between. That gives you more banding and interesting colors inside of your simulation because you have colors at more intervals. So as opposed to sort of just a blend between these two, there's a color that comes between. So it's a blend there and there. Maybe I'm being a bit obscure in my description, but that is something that you can do. Also, maybe some subdivision on the little umbrella. But yeah, I'm nitpicking. I think that this is awesome. He did a great job. Just based on the number of likes that he has, I think everybody can agree that this is pretty awesome. The simulation looks good. So yeah, Tom Miner, love your entry. So that's it for today's review. I hope this was helpful and entertaining. I'll see you back tomorrow. Bye.